Danny Segura for MMAJunkie.com. We're joined by UFC featherweight, longtime veteran of the sport, Ricardo Lamas. Ricardo, first of all, how are you during these tough times? You're in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago, doing well. Just trying to stay in as much as I can. Since the news of the fights being postponed and stuff, I've been able to stay at home a little more. Because before that, I was going to the gym pretty much every day to train by myself.
Yeah, so you were supposed to take on Ryan Hall at UFC Oklahoma City, so we'll get to all that in a second. But I do want to touch, since there's more pressing matters. You're also a business owner, owner of a UFC gym. How is that going during these times? I'm guessing you had a close, right?
Yeah, we had to close up. It's been tough, just like any small business right now. Luckily, I have great partners though that are really on top of things, and one of my partners secured like a payroll protection loan, so we got that going, which is going to help us a lot. And I'm actually going to have a call with them after this and just kind of discuss the steps moving forward on reopening and what we're going to do. So we're basically, at the hands of the local government right now and just seeing when they're going to let gyms reopen. I heard that gyms are kind of be like phase one of the reopening. So we're just going to try and get ready for that and hopefully get right back on track.
Nice. And as far as your lifestyle, for example, I've been having a trouble getting a haircut, and I don't trust my roommate to do the job. But you look in tip top shape, man.
Yeah. Well, one day I just got sick of the long hair, so I buzzed everything all off. My wife loved it, so I might keep it.
Yeah. See, if I had a nice skull, nice and round, I would do the same. But underneath this hair, man, there's weird shapes around here, so
yeah,
doesn't work for me. All right, man. So you were scheduled to take on Ryan Hall, a fight that nobody wanted. Ryan Hall has been in the sidelines for a long time, not because of injury, not because of anything, but because he was just having a hard time taking a fight, getting a fight. But you stepped up to the plate. You said, okay, I want this fight, and it was booked for Oklahoma City. First of all, why did you take that fight?
We were talking to the UFC. They let us know the options they had. Ryan Hall was the highest ranked opponent, so that was basically it. No big backstory to it.
I guess you don't see what everyone else sees, because Ryan Hall is a guy that's a specialist, right, in the jiu-jitsu aspect, and can submit people left and right with leg locks. And it seems, again, he wasn't like super high ranked, but yeah, he is ranked, and obviously he's a name. It seems a lot of people, other fighters, didn't see sort of the pay and reward matching up.
Yeah, if this is the fight game. To me, I don't really care who the opponent is. I'm just trying to move back up the ranks. I do see what everybody else sees. I know that he's a dangerous opponent, but so is everybody. Everybody has their own little specialties that they bring to the game. And if you start avoiding people because they're good at this or good at that, then you're just going to sit around and not fight at all, I'm not scared of Hall. I'm not scared of his jiu-jitsu. I'm not underestimating him. I know how tricky he is. I know how annoying it is to fight him because I've seen his fights. And I was preparing for that. I was literally preparing by myself to fight him. I was going to the gym alone. I was basically lifting, running, doing cardio, and having my one of my partners in the gym put me through conditioning, because I just didn't want to put myself through conditioning. I'd rather have somebody else there to do it. And we were still keeping the 6 feet rule while we were in the gym, while he was putting me through those circuits. So I was ready to go. And then the night before they announced the postponement of 249, we were kind of constantly in contact with the UFC, just trying to get a final word on if the event was going to happen. We kept getting, as of now, yes, as of now, yes. So the night before the postponement, they told me that Ryan Hall pulled out of the fight. They didn't give me a reason why. And, I'm just still waiting to hear from that. So, he's been having a lot of trouble finding a fight. He got one and then he pulled out. So I don't know what to say about that.
So at this point, is sort of the fight still in play, like the matchup, and it's being discussed to be rebooked for a later date? Or are you kind of just, you want to get back in there because you've been out for a little bit and you're looking for whoever's down to fight?
We haven't heard back from the UFC. So, they told us he pulled out. They said that they could possibly try and find us a replacement for May 2nd, but it's null and void now because the May 2nd card isn't even happening. They're not doing any events till May 9th. but it wasn't the ideal time to be training for a fight or the ideal conditions either. You know, I had to cancel. Normally I go to Miami for a month before the fight. I had to cancel that because my family was supposed to come with me, but I'm not going to make them travel during this time. You know, it's crazy out there, and I'm not going to leave them here alone either. So I canceled my Miami portion of the camp. I decided to stay home and just train by myself, get in the best shape that I could, and just fucking fight, you know, and see what happened. And then Ryan pulled out. So, and then the day after, they announced the postponement of kind of all the events. So it doesn't even matter that he pulled out. So it's just a really confusing time, and I'm looking to get it rebooked later on as soon as possible. I'm still working on staying in shape. I just got done with a 5-mile run right now before I hopped on here. I'm still kind of glistening, but so I'm just trying to stay in shape because I got into pretty good shape right before we found out that he pulled from the fight. And I'm just going to keep training. And as soon as we get rebooked and as soon as things go back to normal, I'll go down and finish my portion of the camp in Miami at MMA Masters and fight.
Yeah. It seems in this climate, like, for example, we've seen some fighters be like, look, I don't want to fight because of, one, COVID-19 concerns, two, also because, as you mentioned, it's almost impossible to get a normal training camp in, but it's also understandable that every single fighter's under the same rules. So, you know, it's kind of even playing field a little bit on that end. But are you kind of on the fence of, you know, hey, I just want to fight as soon as things are eligible to continue, or are you kind of a little bit cautious in these times and want to take your time before returning to the octagon?
As soon as things go back to normal, I want to book a fight and fight as soon as possible. You know, I was doing it because I signed the contract before this whole COVID-19 thing started happening and before the shelter in was put in place. I signed the contract to fight. So when I put my mind to something and when I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I do it no matter what the circumstances. So that's why I was going in and training literally by myself. And I was the only one in the gym by myself most of the days. So I was ready to fight. But given the choice, I'd like to have a normal camp just like anybody else. So as soon as things go back to normal, I kind of want to restart and get that normal camp and prepare the right way for a guy like Ryan Hall.
Yeah, certainly with someone like Ryan Hall, I'm guessing the training has to be very specific. So you're in no rush to get back in there as other fighters have shown online.
I mean, yes and no. You know, I haven't had a fight in a year, so that's been kind of no income coming in for me for that whole year, and then the stuff with the business. You know, if I would have fought on May 2nd, it wouldn't have only helped me; it would have helped my business also because I would have been having extra funds that I could have put in to help float us, you know, through this whole thing. So it just kind of sucks all around, but you know, I'm going to get through it. My gym will get through it. You know, we're all hard workers over here and we do what we have to do.
Yeah. And just to clarify, you hope the Hall booking stays intact. Like that's the fight you want.
Yeah. We told them to, you know, they said that they could try and get somebody else. We're like, well, let's just stick with Hall and maybe postpone it to a later date. So after that, we didn't hear anything back from the UFC. So we're just kind of up in the air right now and don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And you've been around this game for a long time. What's it like to sort of get booked like Hall? Because it's kind of like a throwback matchup, you know, and you don't see that very often. More often than not, guys are pretty well rounded nowadays. Ryan Hall is kind of like an anomaly where, you know, he has a specific skill set and you know exactly what he's going to do when you step in there.
Yeah, but you know, he's also been improving in his fights. You know, his last fight against Elkins, he was showing off his striking a little bit. I know he was still kind of doing the same thing, running around the ring and not really engaging unless he was kind of diving for your ankle or looking to get the fight to the ground. But no matter what, even against a guy like Hall, where you think you know exactly what's going to happen, you still have to be ready for anything. So the training with him would be very specific, but I would still be kind of rounding out my training and making sure that I'm getting everything in.
Yeah. And people might not know. I mean, you're a very well-rounded fighter, but you're also, you know, you have a good jiu-jitsu. You have some very good submissions. Dennis Bermudez one comes to mind. Charles Oliveira as well. Is it kind of cool to test your skills against a specialist like Ryan Hall in that aspect? Like, do you think of that?
Yeah, of course. Anytime you get to kind of test yourself in this game, why not do it? You know, to see how good you really are. So that was part of what kind of intrigued me about the fight too, is kind of like, you know, the whole talk around him and everybody thinking how good he is, I kind of want to see for myself. So
Mm.
I'm definitely not scared to take on challenges like that. Charles Oliveira was another great grappling guy that I went up against. Most submissions in UFC history,
Yep.
and I ended up submitting him. So I like to go in there and try and surprise everybody else.
Yeah. Do you almost feel like, because it seems that, a lot of fighters look at the Ryan Hall matchup as there's not much reward there, but you can also look at it as, I fought the guy that nobody wanted to fight, and if you do beat him, that does make some sort of statement. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Fighting a guy that people are scared to fight and you come out with the win, it definitely looks good. But, besides that, it wasn't anything crazy about picking this fight. It was literally that he was the highest ranked
Hmm.
person that they sent to me. So that was why we went with him. There wasn't really any underlying issue or hidden agenda here. It was they sent me 3 opponents. He was the highest ranked one. So it was kind of a no brainer to just go
Yeah.
for him.
I know times are kind of uncertain with the coronavirus pandemic, and we don't really know when things are going to be able to return to normal. But upon return, since you said you haven't fought in a year, what do you want to achieve once you resume everything and get back into the fluidity of your career?
I want to get back to my winning ways. My last fight left a real bad taste in my mouth. Literally, no pun intended. I got my jaw cracked in 2 spots. So um, it's hard to kind of swallow that pill for this long and not redeem yourself. So just kind of getting back and letting people know, like, I'm still here and I'm still a contender. So that's my goal.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple other things. One of the things that still circles around, whenever I open Instagram every now and then, or Twitter, the video of you and Max Holloway throwing down in the middle of the cage. I think that's gonna live, in MMA highlight forever. That's never been done before, and the few fighters that have attempted to redo it just kind of doesn't have the same magic that moment had. Do you look at that and kind of realize how, like, that moment is now immortalized in MMA Twitter?
Yeah, I guess it's funny because you're right. Almost every day, if not like 5 times a week, somebody else will tag me in a clip of that on Instagram, and it constantly goes around. And I look at the views that it gets, and I'm just like, wow, geez. So it's cool to be a part of it. That fight was actually a lot of fun. I had fun in that fight. Max is a great guy. He was a great champion, and he was the ideal opponent. Someone that doesn't back down, someone that's there, right in your face, that likes to fight. That's that Hawaiian culture that was in him, and my Mexican culture too came out. Mexicans like to fight too, so I think the last 10 seconds you just kind of saw the clash of that, and it was fun to be a part of, and really cool to know that a lot of people enjoyed it and still enjoy it today.
Yeah. Was that the first time ever someone challenges you to something like that?
In a fight,
Yeah.
yeah, where we were kind of challenging each other. I knew he was ahead on the scorecards. If you rewatch that 3rd round, I'm kind of going like this
Hmm.
to him the whole time, like telling him to bring it, and then finally in the last 10 seconds he obliged and pointed to the ground, and then we started throwing down. So
Yeah.
I knew I was down on the scorecards. I was trying to make something happen, just trying to make it scrappy, and that's what came out at the end. So it was pretty cool that it happened though.
Yeah. And it's funny. I don't know if in the cage there was maybe something different going on, but at least watching it, all you see is Max Holloway point down, and it seems like automatically you knew what's up. Did he say something to you like, "Hey, you want to do this," or did you just automatically know, okay, this is what it means?
No, if you listen to his post fight speech, he was telling Joe Rogan that I was telepathically telling him that
Okay.
I wanted to throw down, and that was for me waving him on for a good 3 or 4 minutes before that. So as soon as he pointed, I knew he was down, and I was like, "This is what I've been waiting for." So that's when we just stood there and started throwing at each other.
Yeah. And lastly, you've been around for a long time, but you got that Hispanic blood that you just keep looking younger and younger the more you age.
Like a fine wine, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I actually had a little challenge. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, like post a picture when you were 20 years old. That was 7 years ago for me, and I looked the same. So I was like, whoa, this is kind of
Oh,
weird.
wow.
But I guess but how long do you want to keep fighting? Because you mentioned you did have that jaw injury and you've had a few other injuries and you've been around for a while, but at the same time, it feels like, you know, you're not done in this sport and you have things that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I do. You know, I got 2 fights left on this contract, so I'd say at least 2 more, and hopefully the UFC will re-up the contract with me and re-sign me. But yeah, I still got fights left in me. You know, I definitely don't want to go out like my last fight. You know, I don't want to go when I end this sport. I want to go out not with my face down in the dirt, but you know, I want to go out with a win. You know, just kind of still being one of those guys that can go out there and do it. And when I feel like I've had my fill and I'm satisfied, I don't feel like I've had my fill yet, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be interested in testing free agency, like you'd like to stay in the UFC?
I got into the sport because I wanted to be a UFC fighter, you know, not another name fighter. So UFC is what really made me fall in love with the sport since I was a kid. So I want to. The majority of my career has been in the UFC, and I want to end it there also.
Yeah. And lastly, I've been asking several fighters this. You know, within this lockdown, you know, it's tough times to stay entertained. Besides watching your fights, what tips do you have? Any maybe books or movie recommendations, shows that you've relied on during these tough times?
Dude, I've been going crazy. I got 3 kids, so the only TV we watch is like Disney movies, and it's the same. These kids will watch a movie 30 times in one day, like over and over and over, and it drives me nuts. But actually, as of recently, I've been really getting into Ozark on Netflix. So I've been walking around with my headphones, holding my iPad while my kids are like watching their stuff pretty much all day long, and my wife's been getting pissed. But I've already gone through like the first 2 seasons in a couple days, so I'm binge watching it right now.
Yeah, I've heard great reviews from it. I still haven't seen it, but I have it on my list. You're like the 10th person that tells me to watch Ozark, so we'll definitely check that out now. All right, Ricardo. Well, I appreciate the time, man. Stay safe out there, and can't wait to see whenever that fight with Ryan Hall gets rebooked. I'm sure it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.